Hello, everyone. You are watching Valentina Design Universe, a place where you can be inspired by creative people and those people who have decided to do something special in their lives. I am Valentina Cirasola, your host. And today, in this new series called Inspiration From, we will get to know a special person. Usually is one different person in different trades and different arts every time on every show. But today we will get to meet my guest as a financial coach. Her name is Yulin Lee, who I have known for a long, long time. As a money coach, wealth and financial coach, Yulin's mission in life is to help more women to feel confident about their money and their finances. Many women, she says, in their 50s experience major life transformations, or they embark in new entrepreneurships. With the support of her guidance, Yulin is able to give these women a easier transition in whatever they're trying to do in a new phase of their life. So let's welcome Yulin Lee. Welcome, Yulin. How are you? You look great.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely. Is it warm where you are, or is it still spring?
It's good. Yeah, I am in Palo Alto. It's nice sunny outside. Yeah, it's beautiful weather today.
Very nice. You have a very nice background. Is that your home?
I wish I'm living in this palatial place. But no, this is a image that I took from the Lee garden.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
So tell me, what is your philosophy about money?
Yeah. So my philosophy about money is that every single person, whether it's men or women, that we are all fiscally responsible for ourselves. And yes. That's something that I teach my client too, is that when they grow from a teenager into the adulthood, they need to understand that we need to be fiscally responsible and that we need to create our own financial freedom and financial future. So that is at the core of my personal philosophy, but also it's the basis for my work.
So when is the right age to talk about money or to learn about money? Because I've learned myself that talking about money here is not such a good thing to do. People just generally don't talk about money.
Right. Yeah, that's a great question. I think we need to start talking about money with our kids when they're young. Mm-hmm. Through my own personal experience, I start talking to my kids about money when my daughter was 8 and when my son was 5. And so based on my personal experience, I think at 8, she started to really understand the concepts of some of the things that I was teaching them. My son at 5, I don't know if he really got it at the time. He was more about following the big sister, following the motion, but not necessarily getting the concept. However, I also just start talking to them, not like in the form of let's talk about money, but more about just creating the awareness, helping them to create awareness when they were little, 2 or 3 or 4. When they went shopping with me, I put them on a shopping cart. We were at Target or Costco, and I would have them read the prices for me of the items that we were shopping for. And we would talk about, hey, how come these 2 things look alike, but they have different prices? So it's really along the way, you help create that awareness for them around money.
Absolutely. I remember when I was little, my parents talked about how to use money. That was, looking back now, I think it was a great teaching. They never really set us down and talk about money.
Right.
But by using many different examples during the day, they would teach us how to save. I remember one time my father, I asked him for, it was the, I lived in Italy, and I asked him for an equal of $1. I was very little. I could have been, I don't know, 6, 7. And I asked him to give me $1. And he said, "What did you do today to earn that dollar?" I don't know. I was little. What was I supposed to do? But not going to work? I said, "I don't know. I didn't do anything." I said, "Why do you expect me to give you $1? You didn't do anything for it." So it kind of made me think that if you want something, you either create it or you work for it.
Yeah.
And, it's like, and the same thing when we played with other kids. I played with other kids, and we had this game of the coins. We played with coins, and we threw them over the stairs to see who would get them farther, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was another instance that my father told me that, why are you throwing money like that? It's not a game. Money is not a game. And you cannot use them as to play with. He said, "Why don't you use beer caps instead?"
You see, and all of those things that he said to you has made a huge impact on you, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
you probably didn't realize it, but that's probably has been the guiding principle.
Absolutely.
You've been living by around money.
Exactly, because I never wasted money. Never. And so that's the way I grew up. So, so do you think that teaching money is supposed to be a subject to be taught in school?
Absolutely. I really think that's a missing piece in terms of building our kids up for the real life, right? If you think about, how most of us have been through is, we've never learned about money at home or at school. And somehow when we go to college and go to work, go into the real world, somehow we just need to kind of figure it out on our own, right? And so obviously, there are people who do make an effort to try to figure it out. But I think there are a lot of people who are just winging it, just, whatever kind of attitude. And then we also live in a society where there's no social security that you can count on. And like in the old days where there was pension and that sense of security. So we really have to, fend for ourselves and create that enough cushion to take care of ourselves in our retirement years. And so if you've never had that habit growing up, then it is just a much harder thing to do as an adult, to change those habits and create that awareness.
Exactly.
Yeah. Actually, awareness and mindfulness, I would say.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So why do you choose to coach women more than you might coach men? Is that my understanding, that you coach more women than men?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I always say it's not about the battle of the sexes. I love men. So it's nothing against men in this subject. But I do feel that women in particular in the area of money need some extra help. And from a perspective of, I find a lot of women who are very smart, very capable in their lives, in other areas of their lives. But yet when it comes to money, they play very, very small. And a lot of that has to do with how we were brought up. And that's another reason why, I'm focusing on women, is because as a girl growing up versus a boy growing up, and obviously this is not absolute, but generally speaking, girls are brought up to say, hey, you're going to be the one taking care of the family, taking care of the kids. And the boys, we've always taught them, and whether explicitly or implicitly, they know they need to figure out and how to make money for the family. So they just naturally kind of have that tendency or the idea, and it's all from the subconscious cultural conditioning that they need to take care of the family, and therefore they just take that role on. Whereas for a lot of girls, even when they're single, they're getting by, but as soon as they get married, for some women there's this sense, oh, now I have somebody else to take care of that for me. I don't want to deal with it. I'll let him deal with it, right? And so they're relinquishing the financial responsibility to someone else. And I always say that divide and conquer works as long as this couple stay together. But with the divorce rate at 50%, almost most places in the world these days, you just can't count on marriage. I mean, no one go into marriage thinking they were going to get divorced. Nobody's ever planned that, but it does happen. And so when that happens, the women who have given up the responsibility of finances, they get they find themselves in this really, really vulnerable position where they're not only have to start their own life, kind of put the marriage and the family aspect together, but also they have the extra burden of, oh my God, how am I going to support myself financially? And that fear, that question is there for all women who go through a divorce, whether they walk away with a big settlement or nothing. And that fear is the same if they have been in a position where they really haven't been managing money in the household.
Yes, I imagine it is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this is kind of an accepted way of living, that once women are married, they really slack off about their way of making money. Right. Don't you think it's kind of accepted?
Well, I mean, I think I wouldn't say slacking off, but more about they're making the choice, right? Yeah. It's much easier for them to make the choice of, you know what, I'm going to give up this so I can be home with the parent, as a parent with the kids. I'm going to run the household and he can go out and make money. Yeah. So that notion is very much accepted in most cultures. And so it's so easy to get into this position. Sure. It's just when you end up in this position, and if you happen to be part of that 50% who end up in a divorce, then they find themselves in a huge struggle.
Although I think that, and maybe it's because of my upbringing different than this country, I think that kids who are directed or supervised by the mom who stays home are better kids than the mom that goes out to work, because it's just the vicinity of the mother versus the nanny. Someone must take care of these kids, and right. For me, it's a lot more accepted that if the woman stays home and takes care of the kids, then giving them away to someone who does that job of taking care of kids just for a job.
Right. And so that's part of that social conditioning, that maybe there is certain unspoken pressure for some women who maybe really rather go out to work. But, like you said, in a certain country and in certain culture, if that is more of a spoken, accepted way of being as a woman, then they may be pressured to say, okay, I'm just going to stay home and play this role. Yeah. And, you cross your finger that your marriage just stays intact. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other part, that's one portion of the clients that I help with, but I also work with other clients who are, whether it's married or single, that they are very successful in their business. They do make good money, but yet, their success in their business doesn't necessarily translate the security that they want in their personal finance. So I have had quite a few clients who are, like I said, who are successful in their profession, bringing lots of income, but yet now they're in their late 40s or early 50s. They're realizing the retirement's on the horizon, and then they realize, I don't have much to show for financially, and I'm not really well set up for me to retire. And that thought of, they finally realize, oh my God, I need to keep working in order to support the lifestyle that I've been living. But then there's the other aspect, which is, these days I am feeling tired sometimes. And maybe in 5 to 10 years, I want to stop working. And I want to be able to stop working if I want to, if I need to. And they realize that, oh, I can't do that financially. Like my financial situation hasn't been set up in such a way that can support those decisions in life. Mm-hmm. And so those are I think there's another huge group of women out there in their late 40s and then 50s.
And do you think that is, if people are making good money through life, do you think it's because they waste part of it and not saved it for, their old age?
Well, a lot of it does have to do with spending, right?
Yeah,
is spending, living to the lifestyle that they desire today, but without really looking at or paying attention. I think a lot of it too is it's not necessarily that they can't save or they can't invest, but it's just they never paid attention to that. It's, life is too good. They're just busy making money. And then it becomes a rhythm. It becomes a routine. And before you know it, they're at this point in life. And then they say, oh my God, all this money that I've made, I've lived a good life, but at the same time, I don't have much saved up. And so at this point, they also realize they have to fundamentally change the way they deal with money in order to have a different result. Because if they continue on the same path, they will still be in the same place 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road. And so that's when they realize, I need a money coach. I need a financial coach, because part of it is if you haven't done it for the last 20 years, there's mindset work that needs to, that we need to work on. And then there's also the habit, the skill set that we also need to beef up. So it is, it takes some work because you're changing the pattern, the behaviors for the last 20, 30 years.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I've noticed when I first arrived here that one time, this was my very first experience in shopping. I saw in a store many women, and it was a shoe store, many women with a cart full of shoes. So that kind of bothered me. So I stopped and talked to one. I said, are you buying all these shoes? She said, yes. Aren't they pretty? Oh, absolutely. It must have been 30, 40 pairs of shoes there.
Wow.
It was a shopping cart full of shoes. And I said, you must have a lot. I said, I'm sorry if I'm bothering you, but I'm curious to know why you have so many shoes. Why are you buying so many shoes? You have a new closet, or you plan on going somewhere every day? It's like, she said, no, here we buy. She clearly understood I wasn't American, because she did ask me. And I said, here in this country, we buy as much as we can, because first we can, and second, we have the space. Okay, that's good enough for me. I would have never, up to that point, I would have never bought a shopping cart full of shoes.
Yeah. And when she say we can, she's probably referring to the credit cards too.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. And that is part of a real big challenge for the American society with the, just spending what you don't have because we can, someone is giving us the money. Exactly. To do it. And so that's why we have this term called, retail therapy, right? When I'm not happy, when I'm pissed off at my, my partner or whatever, I'm just going to go shopping and use that as a way to really deal with maybe some of the other symptoms.
Yes, absolutely.
In their life. And for someone who is buying that much shoes all in one shot. And I'm guessing that's probably not the only time she does it, right? So there's definitely something that she's compensating for.
And later I realized that most of the people I worked for as a designer had the same problem. They never had enough closet to put their shoes in or their clothes. And so it kind of, to me, was always a special thinking. It's like, okay, we have only 365 days in a year. If you have 100 shoes, I mean, 100 for the winter, 100 for the summer. It's like, you don't have enough days to wear all these shoes.
Right, right.
And so it's always, okay, let's try to find the solution to your closet problems. And
Right.
many times I did tell them, I said, maybe you want to talk to me about different problems that we
Right.
can resolve. Some emotional problem we can resolve in a different way, because buying all these shoes and all these clothes that often have still a tag attached,
Yeah.
it's not the solution.
Yeah, yeah. And I bet as a designer, you see a lot of that
Many,
for
many
firsthand.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's usually the problem isn't buying shoes. The problem is something else that's underlying,
exactly.
and it
Exactly.
just manifested in how they
Yeah,
blow their money on things that they don't need.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
So you do find a lot of anxieties around people who
exactly.
seek your help, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, anxiety, stress,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, and the reason I focus on women in their 40s and 50s is that I find that, and I think this is probably just true for most people, not just women, is that, in our 20s and 30s,
Mm-hmm.
we are so gung-ho, we're so energetic, we're going, we're doing things. Um, we don't really necessarily stop and look at what we're doing. But as we do mature, into the 40s and 50s, that's when, we start to reflect a lot more on our life, what we've done. And that's also part of what I hear from my clients as well, when they finally decided to seek help, to come to me and say, I need your support and need your help, is when they say, I just realized I've been working for the last 20 years and I don't have much to show for financially.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very sobering, realization.
Yeah.
And then obviously as we get older, we do know that, we will start feeling more vulnerable and in our capacity for making more money and all of that, just physically, our body change and our energy level change. And so, yeah. So you do definitely tend to see more stress and more anxiety when people are in their 40s and 50s and realizing I need to do something differently with my money.
So what if some of your clients have really emotional problems about money that goes back to their childhood? Then what do you do? I mean, do you fix those problems? Do you talk about it? Or
Yeah,
they,
that's a great question. So I'm a coach, I'm not a therapist. So we do explore. And so this is part of my coaching is when we first start at the beginning of our relationship, we do work on their mindset. Because if you don't work on the mindset, then it doesn't matter what skills you learn. At some point, because of whatever's happening in your mindset, you will self-sabotage. You will, tripped over your own, get yourself in the way, right? So we have to kind of clean through that. And so the way we work is, we talk about what is their money story. We do explorations of, okay, what was it that I learned from my parents, kind of, like you shared earlier. And so realizing, oh, so those stories, a lot of clients I hear, they have experiences with their parents or their surroundings don't necessarily give them a positive teaching or encouragement, right? So if they end up with some kind of a negative belief system, then what we do is we try to reframe it. Is instead of, I think with therapists, again, I'm not a trained therapist. With a therapist, you can go back and dig deeper or whatever in the past. But as a coach, we really focus on what's today, what is happening today, and what is your story, and then focus on going forward. How do we rewrite that story? How do we rewrite that belief system? So if your belief system is, I'm bad at money, because, whatever the story might have been, then we need to rewrite that narrative, and that says, I am good at money.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we rewrite that story, then we can figure out what are the things we can do to support that kind of mindset. And so part of that is the mindset work. Part of it's just, I tell people a big issue with money for women is lack of confidence.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And so if you talk about, okay, if you realize there's a lack of confidence around money, how do we build confidence? Well, there's many ways to do that. Some people do like positive affirmation or other things, and those are kind of the mindset work. But then the other part is you just practice more. It's kind of like playing sports, right? If you want to get good at tennis, you just go play. The more you play, the better you get good at it. And so same thing with money. When they feel like, this is, again, it's another thing that I hear a lot, like, oh my God, I'm really bad with money. And I'll be like, no, you can be good at money, right? You don't have to be bad at money. And so what are the little things we can do? And because when you think about, I'm bad at money, that natural reflex is not want to deal with it. And so there's a lot of avoidance, there's a lot of procrastination, there's a lot of sweeping under the rug with their money issues. But once you reframe that statement and say, I am good at money, then naturally you're thinking, okay, well, if I'm good at it, I need to take charge. That means I need to take charge. And taking charge just means you're paying more attention. You look at your numbers, you look at your statements, you talk about, you really get clear on what your financial goals are and all that good stuff. And so that's why my coaching is really the integration of helping them on their mindset and the belief system around money, and then also helping them build skills to reinforce the reframing of our stories. Yes. And so that's how it works.
But to me, I think the easiest way is to make a page divided in two. This is what I make, and this is what I spend. It's as simple as this. If you spend more than you make, you're in trouble. Plain and simple. Don't you think?
Yes, you would think it's simple, right? I mean, tactically it's simple, but on the practical level, it's not so simple because there's so much emotions are attached to money.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I would tell you, with a lot of clients, tracking how much they spend is a huge task. Like, be accurate with knowing how much you're spending is actually a huge task. And so, yes, so in theory, it's very simple, but in practice, because our emotions are in the way, it actually makes it a little bit more challenging sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
And I also think another thing, because I would say I'm in love with colors. I would say that the money color is not just green. So we get excited when we find that green in our hands. Oh, it's so excited. It's so easy to spend it. And I think it takes a different coloration when you talk about or you think about your emotional problems. Because if your problem with money have anything to do with your childhood, then it is something that people might want to think about, to review their chakra, because the lowest part of our body, it's red. And that's related to all the issues we had as a child.
Yeah.
So the red and oranges, those are the lowest part of our body that are related to unresolved issues in our childhood. So at that point, people should really think of, like they do with any emotional problem, they smell good things to make them feel good. They watch good movies or happy movies to make them laugh and overcome some sadness. Same thing with colors. They could start thinking of using certain colors to help their own chakra being reevaluated and recharged. And I knew a person, for instance, that she went to one of these I'm not sure what was the doctor type, but she told me that she found out that her red chakra, which is very childhood, unresolved issue was outside their body
Mm.
and not in line with the spine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing that people take it for granted. Those things can help them
Right, right.
overcome
And
certain.
they may not realize that,
They
right? So
don't realize
that's
it. Yeah.
right. That's a great suggestion for, yeah. So like for any of my clients who know that they need to work on their money story,
Mhm.
one of the ways is for them to discover what color makes them feel
Mhm.
better, soothe them, and
Exactly.
then yeah, associate those color whenever they
Yes.
do money work.
Yeah. Anything that, smelling something good, using essential oils and read good stuff and ev- everything in this universe that makes you feel good,
Yeah,
surrounded by these good things will help
yeah,
whatever chakra is out of balance.
right, right,
So
yeah,
that's another thing. And it's obviously doesn't resolve their financial situation because that it takes an action to resolve
right.
their financial, but it helps. It
Yeah,
helps the
and
process.
right. And that's why, it's interesting because I do work with other psychologists or therapists because money is, it's not by itself, right? Money
Mhm.
is integrated in all parts of your life. So money
Yes.
is in your relationship, money is
Mhm.
in your career choices,
Mhm.
money is in your self-image, your self-worth, right?
Right.
And
Yes.
so, yeah, so you're absolutely right that it's all intertwined together.
Yes. So when people work with you, will you review them every month or every 6 months? What do they expect from you, and how do you
How do I work with my clients?
no, how do you control that if they are no, I'm saying not control, but how do you check that they are on the right path? They're
Yeah,
doing what you ask them to do,
right.
or they are stuck. How do you review
Yeah.
the process and
Yeah. So the way I work with my clients is I have a 4-month program. And we start, like I said, we start with the mindset work. And then we move into what I call rolling up our sleeves and get dirty with numbers.
Mhm.
And this is, I find, is probably the biggest challenge for most of my clients because they have been kind of ignoring it or not wanting to deal with it. And so, but it's such a crucial step because in order to get better, we have to come clean. We
Yes.
have to be able to say, you know what? No more self-judgment, because that's what happens is we end up judging and criticizing ourselves, and that makes it even worse, right? So it's about letting go of those judgment, letting go of those criticism, but really come clean with what our numbers are today. And so that usually takes a process for them to get really clear on what their numbers look like,
Mhm.
right? And then we go through a life visioning exercise of what do you really want? Like, what kind of lifestyle do you want in the future? And then we work backwards and say, okay, then what would it look like? Where do you need to be in 3 to 5 years?
Mhm.
And then based on those goals, then we look at, okay, then what does that next 12-month look like? What's my action item,
Mhm.
to move in that direction?
Right.
So that work is over a span of 4 months.
Mhm.
Now, after that, then they have the option to sign up with me for an accountability coaching,
Mhm.
which is less intense, but it's a monthly call where we track their progress to make sure, because when they go through that 4-month program, it's an intense program and they put a lot of work into it. And usually we're on a really good momentum. And so it is important that they stick with it, and then so that they don't just lose it, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so yeah, so I do the coaching part and then also the accountability option for them to continue to work with me.
Mhm. So you actually don't make plans, financial plans for them, the actual,
Um,
like an
well,
advisor. You don't.
well,
You don't do that.
we do it at a very, very high level.
Mhm.
So it's more, you can think of it more like it's a life plan
Mhm.
with a finance focus,
Mhm.
but it's not the financial plan that you typically see with a financial advisor, because I
Right.
don't go into Because what happens is with the financial planner, the financial plan from the financial advisors, they're dealing with specific numbers, right?
Yes.
This is how much you have. This is what we're going to invest in.
Right.
And this is the average return that we're going to expect from your investment. Therefore, this is the chart that you can kind of expect. Because I don't manage their assets, I don't go into that level of detail. What we do is more on the life level. Right. So things like, okay, in my retirement, I like to live here or somewhere else, right? And so what does that mean? Is that do you live in your current house? Do you need to move to another place? Do you need to buy a place, right? So it's a very high level, but it's also give you enough structure for knowing where are you moving your life to. And then in that, and if they have enough asset, then I do coach them on how to find a financial advisor. Because if they do have a good chunk of money, and if there's someone who really don't want to do the day-to-day managing, investing their money, then they need to have someone else do that for them. And so oftentimes I find that people don't have a financial advisor because they may have some kind of feelings or, about the financial services industry, or they just don't trust people. So, I do coaching on that level in terms of how to interview financial coaches. And then also I provide education training about investing, just so that I really think everyone needs to have that basic level of understanding what investing is all about. And so that even if you have a financial advisor, you can have a more meaningful conversation with them and knowing what they're doing with your money, right? Which is something I don't see often. Like in the most cases, when I talk to people who have financial advisors, they see the statement, but if you really ask them, do you understand what they're investing? They don't, right? And to me, that's a huge issue, because at the end of the day, it's your money. You need to own it. You can hire somebody to do the work, but you still need to own it in terms of responsibility. So,
well, Yulin, this is so fun, has been fun and very informative. Thank you for telling us all of this. And we are blessed for people like you in the world that are able to take on spiritual, emotional problems and direct people in the right path in life when it comes to money. We are so happy you are around. So, it has been fun to know all of these things, although a lot of people think money is not fun to talk about, but it is.
It can be fun.
Yes, it is. Can be fun. Yes. But anyway, at this time we are out of time, and can you tell us where people can find you if they want to seek your services?
Yeah, so my website is www.projectm-mindmoney.com. So it's about mind and money. And then, so that's my website. But I'm also on Instagram. I am on Facebook. I'm also holding a free workshop next Tuesday with a topic of investing 101. So for anyone who wants to learn about investing, just getting the basic lingo, understanding the different products, just so that even if you get approached by a financial person, an insurance person trying to sell you some product, you understand what they're saying. So that class is coming up next Tuesday. So
okay, very good. So at this moment, I want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you for being here and tell us all this good stuff about money. And don't let anyone stop you from doing what you like, what you love, and be successful in life at any age, at any time. So until next episode, thank you, Yulin, and love, peace. Bye, everyone.